Okay, there we go.
No.
And baby, that's
No.
right.
Go away,
I'm
baby.
talking.
No, you're not.
Listen to me. Look at me.
Not my house.
I'm the baby.
Stop it. You
I'm
go away.
the baby.
No, no.
Baby,
Hey,
baby,
go away,
baby,
you know.
baby,
Brah,
baby,
go.
baby,
Yeah, leave me alone.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Jimmy Draws Art. So today we're going to go ahead and show you my coloring process on how I go through and color each and every single one of my pieces of artwork that I do. The first thing I do is I import the picture into Photoshop, and pretty much I prep it for coloring. So the first thing I do when I prep it for coloring is that when I bring it in, it's already into a bitmap mode. So basically what I'm actually going to be doing is to actually change it from a bitmap mode and put it into a color mode, which in this case it's RGB color in Photoshop. And then the next thing I do after that is then I change the layer mode basically. So I go down in the layer palette and I change the mode. I change the layer attributes from the background layer to an actual workable layer. So I go ahead and just change it and just make it, well, in this case I'm just going to leave it at layer 0, and then we're just going to go ahead and move from there. And then on the new layer that I create, I make it completely green and just throw it in the background. And basically in this case what I want to do next is I want to get rid of all the white on the main background. So I go ahead and change all of the attributes of that in this with this option where I choose the color range in the select menu, and then I go ahead and select all the white by putting the fuzziness down to 0, so that way it selects all the white and leaves the black. And then I go ahead and basically just go ahead and delete all the white, leaving all the black lines, so it's just a workable line art. And then I go ahead and crop the image to the size that I want it. Alright, so now we're ready to add some color to this drawing. So with that being said, let's add some color. So basically I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. Along with the new layer, I'm also going to rename all the other layers. So I'm renaming the layer with the line art as well. Line art. The background layer that's green, I'm just going to call it the background color. And the layer that I'm going to put all my coloring on, I'm calling it color layer. This way I know what layer I want to work with and what each one is. So let's go ahead and start off by selecting a color. I always like to play around with the colors and stuff. I don't usually have any preset swatches unless I know I'm going to go ahead and continue using a color. I usually don't have any preset swatches, so I just tend to pick one I like. In this case I'm using the basic, I don't know what we will call it, like I guess like a medium brown in that little swatch palette that I got up there. It's the default swatches used in Photoshop, by the way. Nothing special about them. And basically, I'm going to go ahead and select my magic wand tool in the toolbox palette up here. I'm going to switch to the layer that has my line art, and I'm going to select all the areas that are basically in green, so that way I know that I am selecting what I want to select. After that, we're going to go up to the modify section. We're going to hit the select section and then go to modify, and then we're going to expand. I usually like to pick an area around 3 to 5 depending on the size of the picture that I'm working with. In this case it is a 600 dpi resolution, so I usually go with a 5. I go ahead and use the paint bucket tool. I swap in my color and then I go ahead and deselect, and then I go ahead with my brush tool and basically just kind of fill in all the areas that the selection tool missed on that same layer, so that way everything is all set and ready to go. And basically at this point I'm just going to continue on with the rest of it just like that. First thing, again, select the area that I want to color in. Make sure it's everything that I want is selected. Scroll down to the arms down here and select the arms. Just select all the inside portion of the arms. Make sure there's nothing else. Once I have everything that I think I want selected, I'm going to go ahead and pick my swatch here real quick. Go with that color. Select my paint bucket tool. But first I need to also do the modify again. So modify and expand in the selection menu. Hit my paint bucket tool. Make sure I got the right layer selected. Hit the paint bucket tool and voila, we have a flat color. I'm going to notice some areas once again didn't fill in correctly because I missed them. So I'm going ahead with my brush tool and just fill those areas in real fast. And we're pretty much ready for the next part. I noticed some work on the line art that I need to actually fill in. So I'm going to fill in some little black line here, close this section up so when I select it, because that's the one thing you want to do. You want to make sure if you're using the magic wand tool, that when you use the selection tool, make sure that it doesn't have any gaps in the line art so you're not selecting other parts of your drawing. So once again, I go through all the steps again. Go ahead and hit modify, select the layer that I want to put the color on. Select my color, grab the paint bucket tool, and give it a whirl. Making sure that I have the actual color on the right layer. And then you can pretty much see how it finishes up at the end here. Now this next part, I'm actually going ahead and zooming up a little closer so I can do the eyes. Since there's a wide open area to select, I actually am going to do this manually. So I'm going to go ahead and select my paintbrush tool and pretty much make the brush size large enough that I want to get at it. Make sure I got a hard edge on my brush. And then I go ahead and make sure I got the right color, which it will be all white. So I'm doing pretty much the white of the eyes. And I just pretty much follow along with my paintbrush tool the size of the eyeball, color the rest of it in, and voila, start with the next eye. Just a whole lot of painting. Make sure I got the right area what I wanted at, and we have an eye. I'm going to do the same thing with the mouth here. I also selected a brush that's more pressure sensitive with my tablet that I'm using, which by the way, I am using a tablet. I use a drawing tablet with all my artwork on the computer. I use a Wacom bamboo tablet. It's an older tablet, but it's a good tablet. I still use it. And pretty much everything else, all the details like her eyebrows, I'm also deciding to paintbrush in as well too. Just select the color that I want to use. I'm deciding a eye color, but I pretty much decide that I'm going to use the same eye color as I do with the hair color. Same color for the eyes as the hair and everything else. And then we do the other eye. You just select a little white, get that little section I popped in there with the brown. And there we are. We're pretty much done with all the facial features that I want to color in. And then of course we're going to zoom out, get to the shirt area, and pretty much follow the same steps as we did originally for the other parts, like when we did with her skin and her hair. So select the line art layer, get the magic wand, select all the areas I want with the magic wand, go up to the select menu, hit modify, and then expand. We're going to hit OK because it's still set at 5 pixels. Grab my paint bucket tool, select the line art or select the layer that I want to put the color on, and we slap the color down. I noticed a spot that I missed in that, so pretty much follow the same process. It's pretty much the same process all the way through that I use pretty much throughout the rest of this part. So we're going to go ahead and kick it into time lapse again, and then we're going to finish it up. So right now I zoomed up. I'm finished with pretty much most of the coloring. So I want to zoom up and actually fill in all the little gaps that color seems to have missed, or color seems to have missed. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in all these little areas. I sample a little bit of the color from around the other picture, and just fill in those little areas that I miss. And that is pretty much that. I am happy to say that all the flat colors are now in, and we're ready to start doing some actual other coloring, getting all the shading in. So we'll see how well we do with all the shading. So I'll show you my shading techniques that I use to basically do the image, to do the rest of the picture. Okay, so let's add some color to this drawing then, shall we? Well, at least let's add the shading to the color that I just did. So let's go ahead and zoom in, and then we'll go ahead and select our magic wand tool. I want to make sure that I have the right layer selected. I want to select the color layer because that's the layer that we're going to be adding the shading to. So I want to select all of it. So I go ahead and select everything that's at least relating to the skin tone. So I go ahead and sample a piece of the original color, go to my paint palette on the side there, that's on the toolbox, and then I select with the color picker, and I select a more darker tone than what I originally had, and then with that I go ahead and start adding in the deeper tones, as you can see here. One of the nice things I actually own for doing this on my computer is a Wacom tablet. It's a drawing tablet that goes on your computer, and it allows you to, well, it just basically allows you to get the precision that you really need so you can actually paint in these little tight areas. It makes it very nice. I am so glad I've invested in one. You really should invest in one if you actually have a computer and you want to color on your computer. I really just think you should really just invest in one. You can buy one for pretty cheap, or you can go as expensive as you like. When it comes to tablets, there's all kinds of stuff. Personally, I use a Wacom bamboo tablet. When I originally bought it, it was like 60 bucks. It's one of their cheaper ones. It really is one of their cheaper ones. You can go online and find a pretty cheap one these days, and it'll do you pretty good. In fact, actually these days most computers are pretty much coming equipped with like these touch screens, and they have these pens attached to them. Sometimes you might even have a computer that's already got a tablet function already to it, but if you do, fantastic, then you can go ahead and start doing stuff like this right away. But anyway, yeah, just going through the painting here and just adding in all these nicer deeper tones. I sample a piece of the original and the original color, and just basically go ahead and do some edits here and there, make things a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more sharper. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. This is pretty much my painting process that I do. I'll go into time lapse, go into a more deeper, quicker time lapse here, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you the next step that I do. So alright, so here we are at the next step, and I go ahead and do the same thing like I originally did with the first cut with the new color that I was working with, and now I select even a deeper tone. Basically I'm doing a second layer of shading. And with this second layer of shading, just basically going through it again, deciding where the darker points are going to be, and just pretty much having fun with it. Just have fun. It's so much fun doing this. I really actually just have a very fun time just working with the colors in this. It sounds a lot like that painter on TV years ago, Bob Ross. He's kind of like, you know, just be happy and put the paint wherever it goes, you know? Just put it wherever. And that's kind of what I do too. I just put it wherever. Just have fun. It's so much fun to just have fun. Alright, and now we're just moving back up again, and this time I'm deciding let's do a third layer of shading. I feel like I need to do a third layer of shading just to get more of an effect that, you know, the shading is there. I just feel like it just needs it. So I go ahead and get a little bit more of a shade going on. Like I said, just having fun and deciding where the paint lives. Where does the paint live in my little universe? Just decide where the paint lives and just place it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and sample a piece of my original color that I had and basically pick a lighter color and basically just add in these highlights. Adding highlights I find a little bit more challenging to do than the shadows. I don't know why. I always find the highlights a little bit more of a challenge because the highlights are kind of like where the light shines on the face. Where do you want the light to shine? That's basically what this is all about right now. So where is the light going to be its brightest? Usually I do just one layer of highlights. However, in this case, I also decide that a second level of highlighting was actually a little bit needed. Okay, well then, so now that I'm all pretty much done with the highlighting of the skin tone, where the highlights are going to be, I then go ahead and I want to start shaping a little bit more of the highlights. And what do I mean by that is I take the purest white that's available, pretty much just pure white. I take pure white and I select the pure white. Then I go ahead in my paintbrush options up on the top of the screen. I basically adjust the opacity and the flow. Well, mainly I just adjust the flow level and I put it down to like the lowest setting, either to like between a 1% and a 5%. And usually, depending on how much I want the white to come out, I'll set it to that setting, and I will use the paintbrush mode in more like what would be considered like an airbrush. Almost feels like an airbrush. And then I will just go over with the white over in certain areas and just shape it even more. Just kind of like add a little bit more of a sheen to the skin. So basically it just makes it pop, even in the dark areas, because the white on the lowest setting with the airbrush mode just makes it pop a little more. So I go ahead and just do that. And then in the process, after I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and add in a little bit more of a reddish pink color, and I'll start doing a blushing look, usually in the skin there, and just have it nice and blush. And then I'll go ahead and even adjust it to maybe a lower, if not maybe around the same feeling again, but not as much coming out, and just go along the rest of the skin and make it look a more natural sheen. Instead of so white too, we'll just make it a little more pinkish and just make it look natural. I'm doing my best here to basically look as natural as possible, and hopefully I accomplish that. Let's zoom out and let's see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. So I like the effects, I like the way it looks, and then we can continue on from there. Alright, so now that we're done with the skin tone, doing the skin tone shading and everything, let's start with the rest of it then, shall we? I think in this case we're just going to do the same thing with the hair. So I'll probably put this in a faster time lapse for you to actually look at here, so we can finish this up quickly, because pretty much what I did with the skin tone, I'm doing the same thing again with the hair. I basically pick a darker tone, adjust my brush settings, make sure I have the correct layer selected. I use my magic wand tool to select the area that I want to work with, which in this case is the hair. Go back to my paintbrush tool and continue on with just making darker areas darker. Just start making it all nice and dark. Just have fun. Just have a lot of fun here. But the one thing I do here a little bit differently with the hair, obviously since hair is the way that it is sometimes, I'm trying to make the hair look a little more stringy looking. So I add in little areas where you'll see strands. Because let's face it, hair isn't exactly, a single color all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and make it a little more strandy looking by just adding in a few more lines with the paint here and there. Strandy lines, that's all. So once again, we also pick, a darker color. Continuing on with the process. Make all my shadows a little more darker. Make everything a little bit more stringy looking. Once again, just having fun. See, when I draw, I just draw for fun. In lots of ways, I just do it for myself. So much fun doing it. To be honest with you, I don't really care how my drawings look. I mean, I do want some look to my drawings. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but I do want my drawings to look nice. But at the same time, I don't really care. I just have fun. To be honest with you, I just having fun watching this again. Because I do the painting first, and then I'll watch the video that I made, and then do the voiceover pretty much on top of what I've made. So I can add in my own little commentary while I do this. But yet, in the process, concentrate on my drawing. Just have fun. So as you can see, I pretty much also follow the same routine as I do with the skin when it comes to doing the hair. Same thing. And it's going to be the same thing when I work on her shirt, when I work on her jeans. It's just going to be the same thing all the way around. And when I do finally get with the eyes are a special little thing. I always have a little fun with the eyes. Now, because I also do an anime style, and because you got that big white glare in her eye with the anime style, I tend to make it a little bit more extreme. I'm not sure exactly how to call it, but I do make it pretty extreme looking sometimes. So basically, once I finish up the eye details on the inside with her iris, I guess we'll call that. I'm not sure exactly what to call that. But yeah, around the iris of her eye. And then I go ahead, and once I finish all that stuff, I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. And I'm going to label it effects. This is where I add in shine. This is where I really also have a lot more fun as well too. Take the nice white. I put same thing with my brush with the airbrush look. I just bring the brush down really low, and then I just go around the eye, the outside where the glare should be, and I just make it more shiny, we'll call it. Give it that airbrush look. As you can see, it just shines. I don't know why, I just like this effect. I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this effect for years in lots of cases, and I just have fun with it. But yeah, let's continue on with the rest of the drawing. Basically just doing all the details. Wherever I find that I need to get color down on the drawing is where I just decide to do the color. Like in this case with the flower and pretty much all the face details. And then once I finished up with all the face details, I got basically do the same thing I've been doing on the shirt, on her jeans, and pretty much her belt. And pretty much when I'm done with the belt, once again go on that effects layer and just do the same thing as I did with the eyes, add in a little bit of a shine. In some ways this is more of a star, just add in some kind of little shine. And after I'm done with the shine, just zoom back out and admire the work. Okay, so now that we're done zooming out and admiring the artwork that I've done so far, let's go ahead and finally do a quick background actually. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer for the background layer, because eventually we're going to delete that background color layer. But for right now, let's pick a color that I'm going to really like for... Let's do like more of an outside scene, so something blue with a little mix of green. Blue for the sky, green for the grass. Let's go ahead and click my gradient tool, and we're going to go ahead and just do a gradient from top to bottom here. I'm trying to adjust the gradient to where I would like it. Yeah, that might be good, half and half. Now here's where I'm going to get a little crafty. Let's get my brush tool out. Let's make some grass. Yep, let's pick a darker green color. There we go, some nice grass. We're just gonna do this back and forth, back and forth. I'm not gonna do a whole thing, but this is what I'm gonna show you what I'm doing. And in the process of making the quick grass, I'm also gonna copy the layer and just adjust it down a little bit, just like so. I'm gonna repeat that and just drop it down some more. Now I'm gonna select these layers. Let's go ahead and merge these layers together. And then we're gonna select that again and make a copy of that. So that way you got more to make a copy with for the layers. Just bring it all down, and there we go. In the end, we now have grass. This was my quick way to make some grass. I'm going to merge these layers together again real quick, and now I'm going to add in some highlight for the grass. I'm only going to go about halfway. So now that we're done with all the grass, you know, the background looks a little bare still, so we're going to add in some wispy clouds. So I'm just going to grab it in my paintbrush and just start whipping up some wispy clouds. And pretty much after I'm done with that, I'm going to select the smudge tool. The smudge tool is a very nice it's a nice tool, I think, because it allows you to really, I don't know, just makes, in this case, I'm making some very wispy looking clouds. I have lots of color in them. Just a very fun way of doing clouds, I think. It's also slow, so this part of the time lapse is sped up quite a bit because, let's just face it, it's a slow. My computer, it is old. It doesn't work very well when it comes to these processor intensive tasks, and this is a process intensive task, working with this smudge tool. But it is very rewarding when it does work in the end, and I just love the effect when it comes to also making wispy clouds with it. So okay, now that we got the clouds all nice and wispy and everything, I need to make the clouds look like they're transparent in the back in some way. So let's select the clouds actually. I want to try and get like a more natural effect. So let's make the clouds more, let's make them more transparent at the bottom. So let's go ahead and try this, and we'll go ahead and do this. So basically what I'm doing is selecting a layer effect, I guess, where I'm making I'm not sure exactly what to call this. I keep forgetting what it's called. I don't know what it actually is, this process, but it's like a layer mask, but it makes like black areas transparent and the white areas visible. So basically, if you add in a gradient, it gives you like a gradient effect that's kind of like translucent. I don't know what to call it, but I like this effect. It works very well, and so I'm kind of using this right now to make it look just perfect. And because we have made it look perfect, I think we can almost pretty much call this picture pretty much done. So let's just go ahead and add in a little bit more details here and there, just renaming a couple layers, doing a few things to just make it look perfect. Let's delete this other layer too, the background color layer, because we don't need that anymore because it's a hidden layer now. But yeah, this is pretty much a finished piece of work. We're going to call it done. And once again, I want to thank you for watching all the way. If you did watch to the end, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart that you made it this far. And we'll talk with you again later. Thanks. Bye-bye.